Welcome to the Win All Day Everyday podcast presented by Prairie Hockey Academy. My name is Barrett Kropp, and I'm joined by my co-host today, Justin Simpkins.
Well, Barrett, excited for today's episode.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well.
Yeah, we have an incredible guest, one of the world leaders in strength and conditioning in the sport of hockey. Ben Prentiss, his company's Prentiss Hockey Performance, will be joining us today. Ben has trained over 175 NHL athletes. He's been training hockey athletes for about 24 years now, some of the best in the game ever. I think he has 6 Stanley Cup winners. He has a Vezina and Art Ross, Olympic champions. And I think Ben lives it. What I appreciate about the message we're going to receive today is he's not really going to pull any punches.
Right.
Ben tells us exactly the way it is, talks about the one percenters, and talks about the rest of us in regards to what we should be pursuing every day. Not just strength and conditioning, recovery, nutrition, and being a great person. Let's join Ben.
They want to be a cool, junior hockey player. They want to be a college hockey player. But sometimes they don't want to do what it takes to get to that point. The majority of hockey players that we see are malnourished as opposed to the opposite.
Ben, welcome to be here with us today. We're thrilled to have you join us. I think Ben, for our listeners, that at the beginning we talked about Prentiss Hockey Performance, or Prentiss Human Performance even is the name of his organizations he runs. Ben, tell us a little bit about you for our listeners.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. I have owned my own facility, Prentiss Human Performance, PHP, for now 24 years. This January 25 will be our 25th anniversary of the gym that we started. I've started training pro hockey players in 2002. So since then I've been fortunate enough to have trained 6 Stanley Cup winners, Hart Trophy, Conn Smythe, Vezina, you name it. I was a director of performance for Boston University men's hockey team for 3 years. Been the director of performance for many prep school hockey teams here in Connecticut. I'm currently the director of performance for the PWHL's women's team. And along with that, we run our summer program where we typically have, we do about 500 workouts a week, 90% of that being hockey players. Through 11 coaches, and currently been doing seminars and consulting. We're doing a big seminar, myself, Alan Bishop, and Christian Thibodeau, May 4th at my facility. So that's a quick shot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's fun to, for me as a older hockey fan to kind of go through your website and look at some of the alumni and the initial hockey players that you were starting to train, right? I mean, we're talking Olympic medalists like a Jeremy Roenick and then even a Barrett Jackman, who for those of us in this area he was captain of the Regina Pats, right? I knew Barrett growing up, and so there's.
I trained him for a guy named Charles Poliquin when I worked in Arizona, and I trained Barrett his rookie year, and the reason that started was because Charles had Al McGinnis as his big client. And back then, if the top dog told you to go train somewhere, you did it.
Yeah.
So we had McGinnis, Pronger, Dougie Waite, Walt Kachuk. Then Barrett Jackman was the young guy on that team, on that Blues team. But that was... So all of those guys from the Blues came based on Al McGinnis telling everybody to come. I mean, we say Al McGinnis, and nobody on this podcast, other than probably the 3 of us, are going to know who that is. But,
the dads listening.
Yeah, exactly. All the dads.
Yeah.
The kids will have no idea.
Yeah.
But for the kids, it's the original hardest shot defenseman that they've ever seen.
With the wood stick.
With the wood stick.
So
imagine what he could have done today.
Way with kind of the referral system of guys telling them to go.
Yeah, it's a great model. It's a real great model that way. A real quick fun story. One of our older coaches that was with us, older in the sense he's not here with anymore, but Lauren Mulliken was coaching with us, and he had a young guy defenseman, and he told me, he's like, you remind me of Al McInnes, and he's like, is that a good thing?
That's a great compliment.
That's a great thing. It's a great compliment. Yeah. So it's really good. Well, I mean, obviously 24 years, congratulations on that with PHP, and you continue to, like you mentioned, train some of hockey's elite and top performers, especially in the USA hockey world. And I think you're going to have lots of great input for our student athletes and the listeners that we have on our podcast. And again, just the purpose of the Win All Day Everyday podcast is just helping families navigate high performance sports. And a big piece of that right now, it's end of March, beginning of April, and the hockey seasons are over, and we're getting into this off-season training side. And I guess what we decided we wanted to tackle with you today is, we want to hear some fun stories. I might be I kind of look at Jeremy Roenick, I'm like, I don't know how you train a guy like that. I mean, can you?
I have a funny story about him, but
we can get into story time after. We'll cue you up on Jeremy. But I think, what are some key building blocks to become a high performance athlete? I think that's kind of the general theme we want to tackle here today, and that can lead us a lot of ways.
So we mentioned all of the pro athletes, but to be the majority of our clientele is probably the exact age you're talking about. We have Mid Fairfield Junior, the Rangers. That's our AAA team that we train. That's a 15U team. We train a 14, a 12. Along with that, we have kids from the BCHL, the USHL, college hockey, the NA, all of these different. So what you're talking about is essentially what is the majority of our business. I mean, obviously the pros is a 3 to 4 month gig where youth hockey is becoming a year-round sport. And,
right.
When we talk about the building blocks of helping these kids develop, it's more, it's not as much as educating the kids, because it's all driven by their parents. So right. Getting the parent. So, for instance, I don't want to name names, but let's just say, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 Hall of Fame parents that their kids train with us. Those parents drop the kid off. We report to them once a month. Here's how they're doing, et cetera. That's it. We have parents that don't know a blue line from a soccer pitch, and they have a list of what I should do in the background, where I have 175 NHL jerseys of people I've trained telling me how to train their kid, what to do, how to get them on the ice, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really about, and to be honest with you, in 24 years, I've fired 3 clients, and they've all been 15-year-old kids because their parents were unbearable. It wasn't the kid. And the parent would say, well, why are you doing this? And I said, well, you have to tell your son it's because daddy is overbearing and won't follow the system, et cetera. So when we talk about building blocks, it's really about showing them what works. And for us, we use, we're a blend of modern technology, where we have, the latest technology that some NHL teams and college teams don't even have, that we're using, not just to measure fatigue and recovery, but to measure performance. And on a 12-year-old, we still do testing applicable to them. And we've developed norms for, okay, this is a good goal line to blue line sprint for a 12-year-old. I'm not talking about Chris Kreider. Right. And this is a goal line to far blue line. This is a good sprint time for a kid who wants to play in a BCHL or play college hockey. So then it becomes, all right, well, we have a plan, a year-round plan. and how are we going to develop this plan? So that plan starts from the minute you lose or win your championship or whatever. That starts right away with, this is the amount of time you're going to take off. This is the amount of time you're not going to put your skates on. You're going to start with this type of off-season training, off ice, where the priority is in. You can't just be as ambiguous as say the priority is to get stronger, because that's not what everybody needs. Now, most do, but when you do a proper evaluation, some may need more velocity, some may need new force, some might need body composition. Everybody is different in what they need. So it's a talking about, we sit down and say, here's what and it's with the parent at that age. It's a meeting of, hey, look, if you got to listen to us when we tell you when to skate, when not to skate. We'll make you suggestions on how to eat. At that age, it's not the same as when I have a guy in the NHL come in, I'll tell him specifically what to eat. Obviously, at 20 something years old, it's a little different than talking to a teenager. So getting a food guidelines and teaching them what nutrients are better in their body, and then talking about recovery, and then talking about how to become better, because, obviously I was with Marty for 13 years. I'm still close with him now. I've known him for now 17 years. I've trained all his children. I've been very close with him. And one of the things, I was fortunate for 13 years to train him, but he talks about, and I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a very important clip in terms of, what is working hard and what's your definition of working hard. And all three of us might have a different definition of what hard work is. And, you might think you're working really hard, and that might be me taking a nap on a Sunday for what I'm thinking is. So it's to get on the same page about what hard work is, and not only what to work hard, but to work smart and to get to the point to get you better. Because I tell everybody, forget the NHL. Like, that is not only is that a elite, 1%, but is also, you have to not only be the best, but you also have to be lucky. And there's many different things that have to happen. So for me, it's all about, the goal should be to go to play college hockey, to be able to get an education, whether that's in Canada, whether that's to play junior hockey and to go to school. But the goal there should be to be able to pay back your parents, so to speak, have money paid to you, and be able to play college hockey and get an education. And to do that, let's show you how to get to that point. So that's a broad spectrum of kind of the philosophy that we go about. And then if you want to talk specifics of building blocks, it's the evaluation process, the training process, and then what we call, we test as we train. So we're constantly monitoring and keeping. So if you're dropping off your 14-year-old, I can tell you, hey, this is getting better. Manager, and came to me 14 years ago, and you said, hey, is Al McGinnis getting better? I'd say, yeah, he is. And you'd say, well, how do you know that? Well, he got stronger. And well, again, that might not be a piece that absolutely translates to being better on the ice. So the goal of myself and my staff is to facilitate these athletes with not what's going to make you a weight room warrior, but what's going to make you a better hockey player. And for each person, that might be different.
Yeah, that's really good. So just so I understand, there's a bit of an onboarding process, it sounds like, and just getting to know that athlete. Obviously, there's some initial testing, even if it's a 12-year-old you mentioned, giving them a baseline almost of a sprint from a goal line to blue line or far blue line, and where they might rank in regards to what would be where they want to get to. And then from there, you start building out different things. And part of that sounds like even the mental side, like, what is hard work to you? Right. And I'm sure hard work to Marty St. Louis would have been a lot harder work than what some people call hard work. Right? They would have dropped off a lot earlier.
And what I always said to Marty is, look, if there's these certain players that they have the want, and I can show you the way. But you have to have the want. And there's been many times where I want it more than the athlete does. They want to be, the person. They want to be a cool, junior hockey player. They want to be a college hockey player, but sometimes they don't want to do what it takes to get to that point. So they really don't want it. And a lot of times, we see now with all these kids playing, 70 plus games a year. I hate to break it to the parents, but a lot of times these kids that are the Sidney Crosbys at 11 are burnt out and not even playing hockey at 16. Mm-hmm. And the ones that are the best hockey players that turn out to be are the ones that have played other sports, are well-rounded, become athletes, and are more for the long game, as opposed to, having a skills coach, a power skating coach, a sports psychologist, a personal trainer, all of this at the age of 12, and not allowing the kid to play the long game. And when I see that all the time, that kid that's going to be the next McDavid, the next whatever, they typically burn out because they have their whole family's vested on the success of this kid. Right. Where the kids that have made it, so to speak, have this work ethic because it's not like they're a corporation. They're allowed to be a child and to work at their own, what they want to work at.
What's the, we sort of touched on it briefly there in terms of the onboarding process, but let's just say one of our listeners, they hear the podcast and they go, I'd really like what's going on here. How would they sort of get onboarded to be part of your program in terms of what kind of commitment do they need to be putting down in terms of, their, how much time during the day are they training with you? Even the part of how does it, how do they even apply to be part of your program? And what does that look like to you to say, no, you know what, we've heard about the parents and actually the kid might be good, but the parents we don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, that happens. And it's real time that's happened. It's also happens is that, hey, my kid is, they'll call and they'll say, hey, my kid works with a power skating coach, works with a plyometrics coach, works with a track coach, works with a skills coach. I want him to train with you 4 times a week. And I said, okay, well, how old's your son? 9? I said, okay, well, sorry, that's called gym class. That's a real thing that the Russians developed. It's called LTAD, which is long-term athletic development. Yeah. And to develop athletes, meaning that each block of time, based on their growth spurts, based on their growth plates, based on when they hit puberty, male or female, they're doing different exercises, meaning not specific, but so for a 9-year-old, the best thing to be doing is tumbling, gymnastics, climbing, human movement, and to be playing multiple sports. Why? Because when you play one sport, you have overuse of that particular muscle. And so in hockey, what happens is I see 12-year-olds that can't move their ankles because they've been in a boot so much, they have no mobility in their ankles, which means they can't do a normal squat, a body weight squat, which is a human movement at 12 years old because they've been skating all the time. Mm-hmm. Where if they were playing lacrosse for hand-eye coordination or baseball or soccer or whatever, American football per season, and then they specialize when they get to 8th grade or they have this sort of path set where they're going to play, then you can specialize. All of the research has shown, and you can show it to the parents and they still won't listen. Here's the research, it's current research that shows that early specialization leads to burnout, leads to more injuries, leads to overuse injuries, and leads to the athletes usually not making it as opposed to ones that played multiple sports. But yet the parent doesn't want to hear it. So for us, it becomes, okay, if this is what you want to do, what else are you doing? Because so the person comes to me and says, hey, my kid is, this happens. This just happened last week. Okay. My kid just finished playing hockey. How many games? 55 games. Okay. Now she's going to be playing spring hockey and lacrosse and softball and wants to work out 3 times a week. That is not an off season. That is a recipe for your child to become more tired, but not better. So I'm interested in helping your child become better. So a lot of times they don't want to hear it and they'll go somewhere else. I've had many times where I've had these conversations and I say, look, maybe it's a bad business decision, but I don't take you just to take you. Like I've turned away many, many, many youth kids based on you're doing too much. And if something's got to give, I'll be the one, because the skating coach isn't going to say, don't skate. That skating coach is making a living. They want you out on the ice 4 to 5 times a week. Sure. They want you out. If you finished your season on Friday, that skating coach wants you on the ice Monday. And that's not better for you for your long term, but they want the money. And it's a big money game. We all know that. And all the coaches that are junior hockey are skills coaches, et cetera. So for me, it's, hey, all right, then don't work out, because you should not be on the ice right now. You should not be on the ice for the next 8+ weeks. And when I tell them that, it's like telling them that, I want you to, let me operate on your kid's kidney with a spoon. They look at me like in just sheer horror that I would suggest to take your kid off the ice for 8 weeks.
Right.
And yet I'll do this. Like I've been doing this for 30 years. I've trained more hockey players at the highest level than, probably anybody I know, anybody and yet you don't want to listen. But yet, if your kid has a cavity, are you going to listen unabashedly to what your dentist is telling him to do? Of course you are. Well, guess what? I've spent probably more time studying what I do than your dentist has recently on your dental health. But yet you're going to listen to him, 100%, where you're not going to listen to us. And they won't stay off the ice. So we'll go through this. And then if we establish, okay, you're truly done with your season, you have nothing else to do, then you should work out X amount of time based on your age, based on the volume that you're out there. We're prioritizing off ice. And then as the summer goes on and your season gets closer, then depending on where you are and how much you've progressed, the ice becomes the priority and off ice becomes the accessory. And that's the correct way to do it, where early on we get you in the pool, we get you in the field, we get you in the gym, we have you become an athlete. You'd be shocked at the percentages of 12 to 18-year-old that can't jump rope. Hockey players that can't even jump rope.
We wouldn't, because
we've had a few events
but
where
a lot of people,
Yeah.
But the point is, the normal fan would be shocked.
Yes.
That you can't take. I have guys in the NHL that can't jump rope for 3 minutes straight.
Right.
Well, we've seen junior players in the summertime.
So
that the junior guys here in the summertime, when they go out and play baseball, they don't even know how to hold a bat, never mind swing it. And to play pickup basketball, you may as well be playing with the medicine ball. They can't throw that thing for the life. Like it's quite humorous to be able to stand by and watch these hockey players try to do a multi-sport event. You're
starting to see
especially the Canadians. We make fun of them. Like when I was at BU, I won't say his name, but he's in the NHL right now. He's in the NHL. When we would warm up for every game, we'd throw the football around before they would play two-touch or whatnot. And first game, first time I'm there, I typically throw the ball for the guys, and he comes out, he's like this. I throw the ball right through his hands, hits him in the chest, almost knocked his breath out from him right before our first game, first round pick. And he can't catch, he can't throw, he can't catch. He's never done anything like that before. So those type of situations, people. So but guess what? At 16, 18, it's too late. That ship has sailed. So that's why at 12 years old, you should be developing those skills. It's the same thing with skating. If you're 16 to 18 years old and you're working with you're spending all of your money with all of this edge work and it's only going to mess you up and affect your stride more, because at that you should have been doing that when you were 12 years old. That when you have that learning, where your motor learning ability is at its peak, to learn that type of recruitment pattern, that's when to do it. So the ship has sailed at that point. Yes, you can get stronger. Yes, you can get better, but your peak motor learning is at that time, not as opposed to 16 to 18.
Interesting. So that's a real multi-sport window of time, is what you're saying, is what we need to be focusing on. I'm a dad of young kids, right? My oldest is 9, and it's kind of, keeping her in gymnastics and tumbling and fastball and that's the long term, that she's going to be so much better at hockey. And this is a person, I'm a hockey expert telling you, get off the ice, don't play hockey. There's plenty of times for that. And you're not getting, again, are you getting better or are you just getting tired? And you have to look at it at this. And a lot of parents will say to me, like, for instance, you'll say, well, my daughter, I can't control it, man. She wants to play hockey. She only wants to do hockey. Well, as we know, they're influenced by, sure, she can do that, but guess what? That'll make her appreciate it more when the time comes to play hockey and the season for that. When I grew up, we skated on the pond. And then when that was done, we played tennis, or we played soccer, or we threw the baseball, or you did something seasonal. And we develop those muscles and those movements for that pattern. And then as you get older, you appreciate a sport more, but there was no specialization. And it's okay to have all of these personal trainers and coaches, but the problem is none of them work in synchronicity. It's a cash grab, and people want money to support what they're doing, as opposed to this synchronized system of, now's a good time to skate. Now's not a good time to skate. Now's a good time to get in the pool. Now's a good time to run. Now's not a good time to run. And when you know when to blend these things at the right time, it's sort of like saying, hey, this exercise is a terrible exercise. There's really not such a thing as a terrible exercise. It's how it's utilized and how does it fit that athlete. And it's the same thing with the training program. Yeah.
So Ben, would you say that, because we do have a listening audience that I would say is young athletes. Is there a proper rest recovery in that long-term athlete development model where, does a 12-year-old need to be off the ice, for example, for 2 months? And maybe the 18-year-old that just finished junior, does he only need to be off the ice for 2 weeks? Does it get stepped down in terms of your age in that recovery window?
It's really it's age specific, but it's specific to that person, because we know that youth hockey, the games are shorter, there's less people, there's usually 3 lines, et cetera, but still we know, are you playing, let's just draw the analogy to, are you playing 25 minutes a night, or are you playing 9 minutes a night? Are you getting healthy scratched? Are you in and out of the lineup, or are you a D that's eating minutes, killing penalties, playing everything? So that matters as well in what we're talking about. So again, you have to look. So when you get to the highest level, we use heart rate monitors to look at heart rate variability. We have other tracking that we have GPS systems that track the amount of mileage you do in each practice, because that's great on a higher level, because we can show the coaches, hey, in a game, this defenseman only skated 2 miles, but in practice, you got him skating 5 miles. And that's a lot of extra strides that he doesn't need to be taking. Or, we can gauge how fast they're going on the ice to see fatigue. So we can measure fatigue, measure heart rate variability. But at a youth level, it's about, they can handle more. And you also have to look at it as, when you are untrained or untapped as a youth, you can do less and gain more, because you are untapped in terms of your gains as what you are doing. In other words, you can work out less than an 18-year-old and make quicker gains until you get to that age, and then it becomes harder. But so it should be about understanding, doing the bare minimum to get the most gains. So, for 12 years old, if you're efficient and using correct exercises and everything around it is good, you could work out 2 times a week. And if you're doing other things, you're monitoring your fatigue. And as long as the other thing that, without getting into it right away, is that the majority of hockey players that we see are malnourished, as opposed to the opposite, where you think there's this, we have kids, they go to, it's like they all eat the same thing for breakfast, like a sausage, egg, and cheese sandwich for breakfast, which is garbage. They go to school, they basically eat nothing, they drink nothing. Then they come to a workout, and they're tired and fatigued and throw up, and it's not because of the workout, it's because they haven't eaten anything. So to give them nutritional guidelines to actually, you're not even close to eating what you should be eating in terms of an athlete, and hydrating. When athletes hydrate and eat enough protein properly, they literally cannot believe how different they feel and the amount of the production that they do. They have no clue, and that's not like, hey, I ate really good today, I ate 2 sandwiches instead of 1. No, that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's right.
So, I've seen it all. I've seen all the hacks, but those things all come into play into, all right, now I can say you're going to work out 2 times a week in season. And you're going to, is it before practice or after practice? Because that's going to matter now too, how the workout's going to be. With all our youth teams, we work out before practices, which is ideal, because then we can potentiate them and give them a workout that's going to facilitate them to be better on the ice, as opposed to when they come off of the ice, they're already tired. That's the last thing they want to do after being on the ice for X amount of time. So that matters. Then it matters of when the season's over, okay, take 2 weeks off, don't do anything, be a kid, enjoy yourself. Now let's put a plan together for what age you are. Are you going to work out anywhere from 2 times to, if you're a pro, 5 times type of thing, and what those workouts are going to look like. So it varies. All of those sort of, those are all variables that exist. Yeah, it's half the battle. But what happens is they see, these guys in the NHL that eat absolute garbage, that have milk bodies, but their superior 1% skill level.
Right.
And that's not you. So that's what these kids have to get. That for you to make it, you need to do these things and not follow what this guy's doing just because he has God-worldly skills with his hands and knows how to skate. And that doesn't mean that if this person, is an NHL all-star, so why should he eat better? Well, maybe that's the difference of him being an Olympian and a Hall of Famer, as opposed to, in the NHL,
or a 20-year career,
you get one
right?
contract, basically.
Yeah.
You're on your entry-level deal, AKA screwed, and you get this one deal. You better hope it's at the age where free agency teams need you. You sign that one deal, and that could be it. And then by 34 years old, you're at the back end of your career. So, I, for the life of me, don't understand why every single workout, every single thing you do for that short amount of time is not to its fullest, because it's a small window. And, the majority of these guys eat terrible. And the kids need to understand that, hey, it's not do as what they are. It's to get to that point, I have to do different. So, it's to recognize, hey, let's eliminate the sugar. Let's eat whole foods. Let's eat more meals. And then, look, if you want to eat that ice cream or you want to eat that slice of pizza, sure, but let that be after you ate your chicken, your fish, your steak, your pasta, your good carbohydrates. Sorry, in Canada, pasta. Sorry, I probably didn't get that. Making sure that you're eating the right foods, and then you're able to fuel your body. Because, like I said, I see it all the time. And then especially when they get to the high school level, when you say to them, hey, I want you to eat 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. That's bare minimum for an athlete. And usually, so, what's a kid? 155 pounds, 160 pounds if he's lucky. Yeah. That means you should on the bare minimum, 160 grams of protein. They're probably eating like half of that.
Yeah.
And when the idea is not to do that twice a week, day in and day out. Because what happens is I'll have a 14-year-old kid say, hey, what about Red Bull for pregame? Or what about ENOS? Or what about creatine? And I'm like, you kidding me? How long did you look at your iPad last night in the pitch black, craning your neck till what time of night? And you want to talk about creatine? The best recovery you can think of is hydration, sleep, and food. So don't talk to me about some magic supplement until you've eaten your body weight in protein for a month. I get kids all the time. They're like, I can't make any gains. I can't gain weight. I said, get out of my face. You're insulting me in my time because you're not even doing the things. There is no magic pill. If you come back to me in 2 months where if you've slept for 10 hours a night, if you've limited your screen time, your blue light time, if you've hydrated, and if you've eaten 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, I 1,000% guarantee you that you will have put on 10 pounds or X amount of muscle.
Awesome.
To the point, I will let you train for free if you don't. But nobody will do that. They will not stick to that type of strict regimen of doing it. It's too hard. Blah, blah. So you can complain about these things. I will show you the way to do it. Hence, I will give you the way. But what's your want? Is your want a real want, or is it a want that you sort of want that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You mentioned the term supplements, and I think, sometimes we look at supplements as this idea, like as a magic sauce, magic mixture, but the word supplement in and of itself should tell you exactly what it is. When we've hit these recovery goals and these metrics, and we're eating whole foods and doing that, it's only when maybe our body requires a supplement of some more magnesium or additional protein or some electrolytes, things like that we need to be putting those in. But tell me a little bit about your viewpoint on supplements, the industry itself.
It should not be the first thing you go to. And for our pros, we have an extensive amount of supplements, but it's based off of blood work.
Yeah.
Because remember, blood work too is just that frame of time. So if you take your blood work right now, that's going to show me that you need X, Y, and Z. Whereas if you took it tomorrow, whatever you did at a different time based on today, that might say a whole different thing tomorrow. So with that being said, we do for the pros an entire blood panel to give them specific and accurate NSF-approved supplements that they need. Now, there's certain things that you if you're sweating a lot, AKA a hockey player, you'll need more magnesium. You'll need more potassium, electrolytes.
Yeah.
So that's something that you can't get through food or enough. Now, creatine we know is in meat, DHA, fish oil, sure, but who's going to eat that amount of salmon and that amount of steak?
Right.
So yes, we'll supplement with fish oil. We'll supplement with vitamin D because we know all hockey players are vampires and their skin is not, it's basically gray. So they go from the rink, put their toque on, wet head, inside, fluorescent lighting, to the bus, to the rink, to their house. They never go outside. So we know for sure that they need vitamin D. Now, red light, all of these other hacking things, again, is age dependent. But at a young age, with the viewers that we're talking about that you have, it's more getting those nutrients from whole foods as opposed to a supplement at early on. Then as they get older, we create basic packs on what they need and trying to understand that whatever you take is to, again, supplement as opposed to thinking that, because everybody wants to just take something to gain weight. It doesn't happen. You know, if you want to gain weight, you have to eat more calories, especially if you're exercising a lot, especially if you're young.
Mm-hmm.
You know, creatine has shown over and over again, even more now through research, that it's not only just a performance supplement, but it's great for your brain and cognitive function. But again, for the kids that are listening, they shouldn't be talking about creatine and Red Bull. And, you know, they're seeing all their players walk in every morning, pregame with the coffee in their hand. You know, they don't need caffeine at 12 years old. And if you're teaching them those things, what happens when they're in Saskatoon on a Sunday afternoon and there's no Starbucks available and you got your biggest game? You going to play or not because you didn't get your coffee in before the pregame?
Right.
So you can't rely on things that you don't need, that just become habitual because it's a routine and it looks good walking into the rink with the coffee in your hand. Or because I see it all the time. I see these 10-year-old teams warming up with the tunes in the locker room, playing soccer, just doing what the guys that I see, you know, they're just mimicking the older guys. And you know, they need better habits in terms of nutrition. And the problem is, you know, where we are, most of the coaches are volunteer dads coaching, and sometimes don't have the idea in terms of the nutrition as well. So, you know, we make it a big part of, hey, what'd you eat today? What'd you have for breakfast today? Where our coaches are, without creating this eating disorder type of mentality, it's more like encouraging, hey, how do you feel today? We have a questionnaire that goes out via email every single morning to all our athletes to fill out. Scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel? Does your urine look like this? You know, what color is it? We have this little checklist that they do every single day. Then at the end of the month, you can have every single day how many hours sleep, how much screen time, how much water, etc. So we can look at this. So I can say to you now here, oh, you didn't gain weight? Well, you slept 2 hours. You didn't drink any water. You didn't eat enough. So what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
But it's this constant re-education of it and talking about it and making it aware that will, you know, we deal with billet parents, billets that have to, you know, some of the kids go to billets and billets that have had hockey players. They have these typical pregame rituals, and it's about explaining to them the correct pregame meal as opposed to postgame meal, as opposed to how, you know, like I try to tell a lot of my athletes, you guys are hockey players, not marathon runners. You don't need carb load. You don't need all these excessive carbohydrates. You guys are in an anaerobic sport. It's not, it's hilarious how you think you're fueling yourself for a 26-mile marathon as opposed to a hockey game.
18 minutes of ice. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, by the way, in those 18 minutes of ice are broken up into 40-second to a 60-second shift, which break that down is really eight hard strides followed by coasting and shifting, followed by another couple 8 strides. So even though it's 45 to 60 seconds, that's not an all-out bout either.
Right.
I don't think any of the listeners out there today are going to sit back and say, gee, I wish Ben would have really shared his thoughts with us. So I love the brutal honesty, Ben. I think it's been really good because even as we, sit back and sort of evaluate the season that we just completed with our student athletes, there's countless times where, parents were hanging over the glass to hand a Gatorade or the Snickers bar, or in between periods, kind of, just trying to, just not doing things that they need to be doing to help their young man or woman out. And I'm glad that you're not pulling any punches with us here today. We have a segment in our show.
I see it every day. So it's something and I have a passion for getting people better, and I know how to help them. So, when you mention the parents, again, a lot of times what that is, and if you guys think about this afterwards, it's the parents' bias and their food issues that they're dealing with themselves
100%
relayed onto the kid.
Yeah, right. For sure it is.
And that a lot of times is the problem as well, too. So it could be, some dad who had trouble gaining weight as a kid, and this is what he did, and this is what he's going to have his kid do. Or vice versa, the mom was overweight as a child. Now she's lean and in shape. So this is what her kid should do. So he's in the NHL. He's a goalie in the NHL. And he came to me years and years and years ago. He didn't come back because the billets that he was staying with were having him run 10 miles a day that I didn't even know about because they were runners and they thought that that's what he should be doing. So he liked the training with me, but his billets were destroying him by their bias of what they thought he should be doing. So it goes to what we're talking about in terms of sometimes the parent's bias is put on the child.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One of the segments in our show we have is called Guide and Provide, and we ask our guests to give us one piece of advice for a young athlete, one piece of advice for a parent, and one piece of advice for young coaches. So you've given us a ton of stuff right now with some gut punches, but is there one of these in each of those areas that you would be able to just not that you haven't driven the point home already, but just what would be one thing if you could only tell a student or a student athlete one thing today? What would you tell them?
I mean, it's hard to say one thing. I would say I can't be limited by one thing. I would say for a student athlete, it would be to have fun, enjoy what you're doing or don't do it. So you have to enjoy the process. So like they say in the work world, do something that you feel like you're not working. So and I see these kids' faces on a lot of them, they're beaten down, not physically, but they're emotionally drained from the stress of their parents, the coaches, their school, concussions, all of these things that become such a thing in hockey that it weighs on these kids, and they're just walking around with dark circles under their eyes, skinny, just blown out. So have fun, enjoy yourself, become well-rounded, and find a mentor that you can believe and trust, and AKA stay off of Instagram, because there's nothing on Instagram that is helping you. That is all what we call dopamine. It's for the brain, adrenaline, quick shots of dopamine that just don't exist. So, if you want to learn something that actually is working in the field, find a correct coach or mentor and follow them. That's what I would say. And surround yourself, with kids, it's the same thing, right? The best kids on the team hang out with each other. And a lot of times, one of the kids might not be a good influence on the other one. And kids are kids. But, it's very hard to tell a 14-year-old anything because, they listen but don't hear, or they hear but don't listen, I should say. So,
Yep.
Try to find a mentor that's going to guide you, or a coach that's going to guide you in the right way, and surround yourself with like-minded people.
That's good. Good stuff.
For a parent, I would say stay out of the way, but I get it that you want to find somebody that you can trust, but don't try to live your childhood through your child. Your child should not be your pony to make it to the Derby. And if you find somebody that you trust, stay out of the way and let them do their job.
Right.
And if you don't, then find somebody that does. But, like anything in life, surround yourself with people that make you better as well. So, if you're a landscaper and you know how to make the most beautiful manicured lawn in the world, and you know how to be a landscape design architect, what does that have to do with creating the right energy systems for your kid's hockey player? And what do I know about landscape architect? So you hire an expert to do their job, or don't. But that's what I would say for a parent. For a coach, I would say, a parent and a coach are the same to me, but I would say for a coach, you have to understand that these children are very influential, and, what you say may not be with this type of generation. To me, it's not what you say, it's more of your actions of what you do. So that's what I think the younger kids in this generation pay attention to more, as opposed to what you're saying. The Herb Brooks, motivational Gatorade, Under Armour, commercial type speeches and montages don't hold water with these kids. What's going to hold water for them is, what you're doing, how you coach them, how you respect them, and your resume of what you've done. So if they will respect you and follow you, if you have done that and you've shown that you've done that, as opposed to getting in front of them and saying, I've done this, 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 and this, and this. I've coached this guy and this guy, so listen to me. They don't care about that. They care about what you can do for them at that moment. And it's about less talk and more show.
That's good. You started the podcast today a little bit talking about, a lot of the young athletes come and they have the want, and essentially when they, you have the way, they just have to want to do what it takes to, to go in the way. And I don't know, there's some new Star Wars show out there. I think they always say, this is the way. And it just kind of made me remind me of that a little bit. And it's just, but same thing, right? So as a young athlete, as a young coach, as a young parent, anything, it's essentially find somebody, a mentor, anybody that knows the way. You trust them, and put the work in with it, and follow the process.
Yeah, it goes to, if you look, and I'm not trying to be an old school guy where I say, well, this used to be, because you have to adapt to the times, and I understand that, but there has to be some type of ethical response that isn't happening in today's game, where back then the Al McGinnises and the Chris Prongers set the stage for these younger people to come up and be superstars, where now you're 20 years old, you're getting a C on your sweater, and you're supposed to what? How are you supposed to handle adversity and lead by example, other than I'm the best player in the team, so I got the C? Where it was all the best player on, Marc Messier, who, one of the best leaders of all time.
Right.
These are leaders that do both, but it didn't used to be, we're just, who's the best guy in the team? Give him the C. And because, as I said about coaches, showing instead of talking, as a player, you have to have, if you want to build a team, the whole team has to, know how to fall in line from alpha to beta down the line in terms of their roles. And when you find that, you have winning teams regardless. And it's not always especially in youth hockey, it's not always about the best kid on the team is the one that, I mean, the best kid in the league on that team might not win. It's more the ones that are playing more of a team game. And for a kid to hear that, they're like, yeah. But when they truly believe that and see that one guy, this isn't basketball. You know, basketball, one person can make all the difference. You have the ball, but how much? I don't care how good you are. One person, other than if you're a goalie standing on his head, that can. But as a skater, you know, it has to be about the team and team success. Then you got to look at, you know, that's for another conversation, but how many kids even care about winning or losing anymore and care more about their personal stats? That's a whole nother segment, I guess.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Ben, you've given us a ton of information to dwell on, but even just the sharpness of you know, your comments, I think is really going to hit home with a lot of parents on our show today. I'm really thankful that we've been able to spend the last hour with you to just unpack some of this stuff. And I'm sure, you know, over the next, within the next year, we'd love to have you back on, maybe even to talk about some of these other things in more depth and whatnot. But I'm really thankful that you took the time out of your day today to be on the show. Our listeners, I'm sure, are going to have lots of comments and hopefully maybe some real sort of gut checks on their own to be like, man, this is something that, you know, if we really want our kid to be at high performance, this is some sage advice from a guy that's been in the industry for a long time. And even for our young athletes that do listen, I think you've given us a lot of nuggets here today. So I'm really thankful for that. And thank you for spending the time with Justin and I.
Well, I appreciate it's nice to meet you guys, and thank you for having me. And I enjoyed the time as well.
Yeah, I'll just say to our listeners, I think that, you know, I had a lot of fun on the Prentiss Hockey website, and I think go put in Google, look up the website. What is the website exactly, Ben? Do you want to tell us that?
So the website is Prentiss Hockey Performance, I think. But to be honest with you, the website is not something that I update or do very much of. I know I said don't go on Instagram. I personally hate Instagram, but I do have an Instagram because it's a world that we live in. But we typically just post positive information. That's Prentiss Human Performance. That's the Instagram where we have, you know, for your young people, see all the athletes working out, and we give information, everything from nutrition to soap to use to shampoo, all kinds of helpful tips. So that's that. And that's really the only two things that we have.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I stole a website, or not a website, sorry, a recipe off that Prentiss Human Performance at one point. So
yeah, there's a few.
That. Yeah,
they're not big, big responders, but we still do them, but not too many people.
Yeah, it's good. So appreciate that. But yeah, just I thought the website too just was a good memory lane for me, just to see some of the guys that you had trained. And so I'd encourage people to take a peek at that. And thanks for your time today, and enjoy the rest of your week.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. And to our listeners out there, thank you for joining along with us today on the Win All Day Everyday podcast presented by Prairie Hockey Academy. If you have the opportunity to share this podcast with your friends, we appreciate that. Make sure you give us a like on the bottom there, and do all you can to share about all that we're doing here to help high performance families navigate this minefield that is in sports today. So thank you for your time. We muchly appreciate it, and hope you have a great week.